Hey guys, welcome to Xbox On.
Now you may be aware that Resident Evil 7 is coming out just around the corner, and is the reason Lydia has no voice whatsoever because she was screaming at the top of her lungs all day. My ears are like kind of gone, they're in pain. But you know what, it got us thinking about other scary games, so here are our 8 favorites. You can't talk about horror games without talking about the all-time classic, Dead Space. Pick up your plasma cutter and prepare for carnage.
You know you're in for a tough ride when even before the title menu has appeared, you're forced to listen to a creepy rendition of Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. And for poor Isaac Clarke, things are only going to get freakier from there. Arriving on the USG Ishimura, Clarke finds the crew missing and an army of horrible mutant freaks in their place. These are necromorphs, twisted versions of the crew who used to live on the ship. Their long limbs look disgusting, and they are even worse if you let them get up close. But those long limbs are also key to defeating them. Where most games will ask you to aim for the head, here chopping off arms and legs is the fastest way to get a kill. Luckily, your plasma cutter slices through flesh like a hot knife through butter. It creates incredibly tense standoffs as you carefully aim for the joints as the screaming enemies sprint towards you. And if this wasn't scary enough, unlike your common zombies, there's nothing keeping these guys on the floor. They burst out of vents, drop from the ceiling and scuttle up walls, making it easy for them to suddenly ambush you. Where most games ask you to push forwards and just go about clearing out rooms, Dead Space puts you under constant threat of attack. The Dead Space series became more action heavy as it went on, but the first game is still a tense, gory gem.
And now in today's episode of Really Horrible Things, it's aliens bursting out of people's rib cages. Lovely.
Except in Alien Isolation, it's less chest bursty, more one horrible, terrifying alien that literally haunts your nightmares after you play this game. In the game, you'll play as Amanda Ripley, as she investigates what happened to her mother, the very awesome Ellen Ripley. It's 15 years after the disappearance of her mum's spacecraft, but lo and behold, the flight recording of her ship has since been found. Amanda sets out on her mission to finally get some closure, but in true, in space, no one can hear you scream fashion, everything goes horribly wrong and lots of carnage and death follows. The game is very true to its name. There's only one alien who is constantly after you and you're on your lonesome, isolated from the rest of the crew. In terms of creepiness, this game has it in bucket loads. You can't kill the alien creature, you can only try to outsmart it, so peppering it with bullets is never going to save your bacon. You'll have to be crafty with your motion tracker and your flamethrower if you want any hope of getting out of there alive. It's very much a survival horror rather than an all-out, there's aliens everywhere, which is what makes it such an amazing game. Being stalked by just one absolutely terrifying alien will have you holding your breath at all times, carefully crawling from area to area in a desperate hope that that bleeping dot on your motion tracker doesn't get any closer. And if it does, hey, at least an alien isn't exploding out of your chest. There's always that, huh?
There have been many horror games that have made you feel like a complete total crybaby, but I'm pretty sure that in Among the Sleep, it's the first game that you actually play as one.
At the start of the game, you are a very happy baby. There's toys and cake and an adult to carry your lazy ass all over the house. It's heavenly. Okay, so that new teddy bear you've got for your birthday is kind of freaky. One of our golden rules in life is not to trust talking teddy bears, especially when they try to lead you into a dark cupboard. But it turns out that a spooky closet is the least of your worries in Among the Sleep. No sooner have you gone to bed, you wake up in the night sensing a dark presence in your room. Normally, we'd be quite comfortable busting whatever ghost comes our way, but playing from a baby's perspective makes it that little bit more challenging. I mean, you're going to struggle opening up high doorknobs, let alone fighting off an intruder. And things only get weirder for our tiny hero. When his mother goes missing, he enters a strange horror dimension where he has to find memories of his mum in order to save her. It's more creepy than outright scary, however. Think of dark forests and spooky playgrounds rather than gory slaughterhouses. That said, when you begin to get stalked by a ghost man, the game begins to feel a lot like Slender Man. When this horrible thing starts catching up with you, you're going to be thankful your character is wearing a nappy. Can we have one too?
When it comes to horror games, there's always one franchise that springs to mind. I mean, you can't go wrong with the classics. A creepy mansion, some very unfriendly dogs, and a Jill sandwich. Perfect.
Now, considering Resident Evil first graced our consoles 11 years ago, you're probably familiar with the storyline. For those at the back who weren't paying attention, some murders have occurred on the outskirts of Raccoon City, with some of the victims being, well, eaten. The Raccoon Police Department Special Tactics and Rescue Service, aka STARS to you and me, are assigned to the task. They head to the mansion, get trapped inside due to murderous dogs, and chaos starts. There's characters you shouldn't trust, characters who become zombie food, and multiple different endings depending on your playthrough. In 2015, we got the digital remastering, which allowed us to experience the terror all over again, but this time the characters didn't look like potatoes. Thankfully, the remaster doesn't stray far from the original. You know what they say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. All in all, it stays very true to the 1996 classic. It's got all the same nostalgic glory of staying up late whilst playing the game on your mum's box TV, whilst looking as lovely as we'd expect from gaming today. One throwback which is kept firmly in place is the use of camera angles. Whilst it can be frustrating when you're used to being able to swing the camera whichever direction you feel, you can't beat the creepiness of a fixed camera. There's no peeking as to what's coming next, and there could be a zombie right in front of you down the corridor, but do you have a clue? You can bet your bottom dollar you won't know until you're basically standing on top of it and getting your face eaten. Good times. And you'll still be able to make a choice as to which character you'll play as, each having their own strengths. Chris or Jill, the choice is yours, and plenty of remastered thrills and chills await you.
If you found the haunted house scares of Resident Evil 1 a little too old-fashioned, then you need to try The Evil Within.
The Evil Within was directed by the creator of Resident Evil, so it's understandable that it shares some DNA with the series. This feels like a much meaner version of Resident Evil 4. It has the same over-the-shoulder camera and tense gunfights, but the world is much darker. The ammo is even harder to find, and the enemies make zombies look like pussycats. While you do have gunfights with traditional maniacs, The Evil Within makes things harder for you. Downed enemies can be revived unless you set them on fire, but you have limited access to fuel. And then there are enemies that can't be killed, forcing you to flee and hide until the threat has gone. Resident Evil 4 has nothing as scary as this spider lady who bursts out of pipes to come and rip your head off. And later, you find yourself up against a man with a safe for a head. He feels like he should be related to Silent Hill's Pyramid Head. There are a few moments on Xbox One as tense as watching him slowly stomp after you, soaking up your bullets and throwing down barbed wire landmines. The game is so relentlessly stressful and grim that we wonder if it needs to lighten up. Hell, even the studio logo looks like the snail is pooping itself in fear.
If creepy murder mystery detective thrillers with serial killers and people jumping out at you in the dark and trying to kill you is your cup of tea, you psycho, may I suggest playing Condemned.
In Condemned, you play the role of Ethan Thomas, a crime scene investigator with the FBI Serial Crime Unit. In his quest to get the bad guy, he ends up investigating plenty of condemned buildings on the search for a seedy serial killer. You see, one of them has framed him for murder, so he's on a mission to find the guy and set things straight. Unfortunately, there's loads of violently psychotic people on the loose, which I hear can make your quest to set things straight a little complicated. It's never easy, is it? The game is more than just fighting off crazy people though, as it's got some pretty nifty crime scene sections. You'll be presented with puzzles that can only be solved with the power of good old-fashioned DNA and deduction. From fingerprints to fibers to fluids, to documents, markings and even body parts, you'll be piecing together some seriously horrible situations. That is when you're not being attacked by crazy people. And you'll be doing a lot of that. The game focuses on melee heavily. Bullets are sparse and sometimes a good punch to the face can do wonders. The AI of your enemies certainly spice things up too. They're good at fleeing and hiding, so it's not just a simple case of kill and go. You'll find yourself nervously holding your breath as you track them round corners, and then screaming like a baby when they pop out at you. At least that's what I did. The good news is that Condemned is backwards compatible, so if you feel like experiencing the horror all over again on your Xbox One, then now's your chance.
While most of the games in this list are about facing physical monsters, in Layers of Fear, the fight is all in your head. Things are about to get very, very weird.
You play as a painter attempting to finish his masterpiece during a long, lonely night. At first glance, his house is pretty normal, if creepy as hell. The trouble begins when he puts the brush to the canvas. As he begins to paint, you're asked to explore the house looking for items to help him create his work. Problem is, the house refuses to stay still. As you explore its dingy corridors, the house is constantly playing tricks on you. You might turn your back on a wall only to turn around to discover a new door, or you might exit by a door you came in by only to find yourself in a completely different room. Floors drop away, plunging you into dark areas, and there's something incredibly wrong going on in the kitchen. I've seen lots of food go off in the fridge before, but I've never seen it come pouring out of a magic painting. Freaky. As you explore the house, you begin to piece together the painter's incredibly dark history. You can tell things are not going to turn out well when he starts collecting bits of skin and jars of blood. What really creeps me out in Layers of Fear though is the way it warps the world before your eyes. Pictures can start to bleed or transform into new images, and in one amazing scene you watch an entire bedroom begin to drip into liquid as if you were inside a living painting. If you're looking for a really imaginative horror game, then this is the game for you, though you'll never look at a colouring book in the same way again.
If there's one thing that's more terrifying than being chased by a complete psychopath who wants to murder you senseless, it's being chased by a complete psychopath who wants to murder you senseless with no way to defend yourself. Help.
Outlast is a first-person survival horror that takes place in a remote psychiatric hospital in Colorado. You play as Miles, a freelance journalist who receives an anonymous tip that inhumane experiments are being conducted. Having a thirst for knowledge and no apparent common sense, Miles sneaks into the hospital in the middle of the night. Alone. What follows is the realization that all the staff have been murdered, the escaped deranged patients are running free, and there's also a supernatural creature on the loose. Oh Miles, what a mess you're in. The particularly creepy thing about Outlast is that you can't defend yourself. Forget about grabbing the convenient pistol that someone left out on the table and ransacking someone's locker for some even more convenient bullets. In Outlast, your only way of staying alive is to run. And hide. You'll spend many tense moments cooped up in a locker, praying that your hiding spot won't be stumbled upon, and even more terrifying moments running away from deranged lunatics, with the game giving you the handy option of looking behind you as you do so you just know how close you are to being catched and flayed alive. Of course, no horror game would be complete without limited light and seemingly endless darkness. Unfortunately, the psychiatric hospital's electricity bill hasn't been paid, and a lot of the time your only means of seeing is using your night vision mode on your camera, which frequently runs out of batteries. Once they're gone, it's pure stumbling in the dark and hoping you don't trip up on a murderer. That, blended with jump scares aplenty, makes Outlast one of the scariest games ever. I just really hope this was worth the article, Miles. Jeez.
So there we have it, guys. 8 games that are going to give you nightmares. Let us know your favourites in the comments below, and if we've missed any out. Also, if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any more videos.
And don't forget to smash that like button if you enjoyed this video, and check out another one of our list shows whilst you're at it. Hopefully I'll have a voice next week. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.